Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. In this video, I'm gonna take a look and see if I can repair a mountain bike tube with some duct tape. So I recently got into mountain bike riding, and I must say I've popped 3 tubes in about 3 different rides. And what it is these little spiky fellows right here. Keep going into my tire. And so I'm curious if I can patch the hole with this 3M brand duct tape here. All right, so I got the wheel off the bike and the tube out of the wheel. Side notes, 2-inch mountain bike tubes are way easier to remove than 25 mil road bike tubes. There's our leak right here. My thoughts with the tape, main concern is that it probably isn't stretchy enough. But when you get the tape and you try to pull it this way, not much give, and you try to pull it this way, not much give. And I think that's because the fibers of the tape are aligned parallel with the roll and then also perpendicular with the roll. But I know when I pull kind of at a 45-degree angle, look at that, a lot more stretch. So I'm thinking of doing is, instead of aligning this directly on the tube, placing it at about 45 degrees. Right here, press it down. There she is. Put it back in our tube. Look at that, it's so much easier than a road bike. It's ridiculous. It's just below 30 PSI. That's what I run my tires at right now. About 25, between 25 and 30 PSI anyway. So far, so good. Take it for a little spin, and then we'll let it sit overnight and see if the tire's still inflated tomorrow. And then tomorrow, if it is, I'll take it for an actual ride on a trail, see how it holds up. All right, so it is the next morning, and we're gonna see if our duct tape is held. Oh, surprise, surprise. It did not hold. That is a completely empty tube. Okay, so it's a couple of weeks later, and I'm just curious if the leaking's actually occurring out of this, or maybe there's another hole within the tube, because when I was rubbing my hand against the inner wall of the tire, there was some other sharp bits. So I'm just gonna do the same water test and see if we're getting air bubbles out of here, first of all, which I don't know if that's showing up really well on the camera, but no, there's nothing leaking out of there. So that leads me to think maybe there's somewhere else on this tube. There we go, there's one right here. Look at that. Probably not turning out too well on camera, but you can see this is my first patch. And there actually is now some bubbles coming out of it after I submerged it. I don't know why I didn't just test it like this to begin with. It's so weird. Like the first time I put this in here, that patch was not leaking. And then I put this other patch on, and then I checked the rest of the tube to see if there's any leaks, and then I started seeing bubbles coming from underneath that very first patch. I think what happened is it was holding, and I submerged the tube in the water, and slowly the water seeped in and interfered with the surface and just made it not as good. So I'm gonna put that theory to the test here. That one, and then this one, let's soak in water. See if that does anything to the adhesion. Wet sample, let's go ahead and see if it pulls off really easy. Oh yeah, that came off like nothing. It didn't stick whatsoever. All right, now for the regular sample that was not put on wet, let's see. Came off really easy as well. So the issue seems to be mainly that this really sticky tape that probably sticks to itself like glue doesn't stick to the rubber very well. All right, so maybe I'm putting too much effort into this since I've essentially answered the question I was trying to answer. You can patch a tube with duct tape, but it's not gonna hold for very long. Maybe it'll get you home, but I'm just curious if I can get this to work. Like scuff up this smooth surface. It's just some 120 grit. And let's put that on there. Press it down. Yep, that's doing it. Way better. Way better. Okay, so maybe the issue is it doesn't stick to this because it's a molded, nice, smooth surface. I don't know, if I just scuff it up a bit, it'll hold. Interesting. So I'm gonna try patching up the tire by sanding it with 120 and then using this Gorilla Tape kind of the same way as before, and let's see if it holds. Okay, so it's a day later. I didn't want to bore you with watching me put on another tire. And so let's see if this thing has held. Oh yeah, pinch test reveals there is a ton of pressure in there still. I think it's worked. That's pretty cool. So next step, let's make sure this has worked. I'm gonna take this bike for a ride and see if these patches hold up. All right, well, I had to wait a couple of days because it was raining, and the state park that has all the dirt trails shuts down all the trails in the rain, and for 2 days after. So I've just been sitting at home for 2 days, and then finally they opened them today. So I'm gonna go and test out these duct tape patches. So far, maybe 10 minutes into the ride, and it seems to be holding just fine. Do I go for the puddle? Yeah, we go for the puddle. That tire's holding up. That's good. Ah! Still new to this whole mountain biking thing. I get nervous in the corners. That wasn't really a corner, but still. Well, I made it about 30 minutes into the ride, and the front tire is flat. So update, removed the front tire, removed the tube, checked the inside of the rim, and oh my God, there were a ton of those little spikes that I showed you earlier. I lost count, at least 50. Turned my tube into Swiss cheese. I got the new tube in there now. I'll probably run over more. But I think what happened, I went through some mud and it kind of clogged the tread a little bit. And I think the mud just attracted all those little spike balls to the wheel. And same thing on the rear tire. Now it's flat, and some guy rode by, offered to help if I needed it, but I mean, I got everything I need. And he said, yeah, same thing was happening to him, but he went tubeless and it doesn't happen anymore. The fluid that you put inside or whatever just seals the holes. So I guess moral of the story, yeah, you could probably patch tires with duct tape, but just go tubeless. Hopefully I can patch this tire. Otherwise, I'm gonna be walking out of here, and that's about 5 or 6 miles. So long walk. Too many holes to patch on the rear tire. So I'm walking. Alright guys, we are done with our walk and back in the kitchen to see what happened to this tube. You can see there's our patches, both still on the tube. So I'm going to go ahead, fill this up, and see if it's leaking from where. Alright, you probably can't see that too well, but the patch is not leaking. And you can probably see a bunch of bubbles there. 3 holes just in that little section of the tube. 4, 5, 6. Just so many leaks. 7, 8, 9. And they're just all over on this tube. I mean, just this section alone probably has about 8. Let's go ahead and check out our last patch. I don't see anything coming from underneath that duct tape patch. So this confirms my theory that the sanding has improved the adhesion of the duct tape and ultimately created a good enough seal. Whether or not this will be a long-term solution, I don't know. But it's kind of a moot point when you've got probably about 50 different holes on this tube. I suppose I could try to just duct tape the entire tube, but at that point, I don't know, just get a new tube. Or what I'm going to do, I'm going to try tubeless next and see if that solves my problem with flats on pretty much every ride. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to drop a like if you've made it this far. Leave a comment below if you have any recommendations on tubeless or just tubes in general and how to not get flats. And subscribe for more videos. Thank you guys.